Storm Bettina unleashed its fury along the coast of the Black Sea, bringing life-threatening flooding and damage throughout Crimea and southern Russia. Apocalyptic footage shows giant waves crashing into Balaclava, swallowing the coastline. Further east in Sochi, the storm surge sent walls of water surging through city streets, submerging cars and anything else in its path.
Пошла волна. Вон их две пошли.
Apocalyptic footage captured cities transformed into disaster zones of flooded streets, shattered buildings, and uprooted trees by the storm's intense winds and towering waves. This rapidly intensifying tempest blindsided the Crimean peninsula on November 26th with potentially historic destruction. Hello and welcome to SW News. In the ancient port city of Balaclava, colossal waves smashed over seawalls and through city streets, trapping residents in flooded homes and overwhelming first responders. Desperate people clung to signposts as swirling, debris-filled currents threatened to wash them out to sea. Vehicles sat abandoned where floodwaters drowned their engines, showcasing the terrifying speed of the inundation. Further down the coast in Sochi, relentless storm surge obliterated beachfront properties to splinters. Video captures the gut-wrenching scene as apartments and hotels crumble into the churning water. Winds topping 75 miles per hour hurled debris like missiles through the chaos and showcased Hurricane Bettina's devastating power. Across the Crimean peninsula, howling winds toppled ancient pine and oak forests that had weathered centuries of storms. But Bettina's wrath proved too fierce, snapping thousand-year-old trees off 15 feet above their roots.
Whoa! Отворачивайся. Вот здесь. Ну да.
The swirling vortex left landscapes unrecognizable in its wake. At least 3 people have lost their lives, swept away by the raging floodwaters. 4 others are seriously injured, though emergency crews struggle to transport them to safety with downed trees and power lines obstructing roadways. Thousands more await potential rescue if more extreme flooding compromises dams and reservoirs. For countless terrified families, this nightmarish storm threatens their very survival. In Berdyansk, news footage revealed entire city blocks inundated by churning floodwaters. "I feared my taxi would be swept away into the sea," recounted one driver in dismay. Upwards of 75 miles per hour, winds buffeted vehicles, threatening to launch them airborne across the devastated landscape. Along Crimea's western coastline, colossal waves engulfed entire beachfront hotels, smashing through lobby windows and climbing 3 stories up their facades. Panicked tourists took shelter on upper floors, though the relentless storm surge threatens to swallow the buildings entire. Howling winds ripped palm trees out by their roots and sent them hurtling through cars and buildings. Authorities warn wind speeds may reach upwards of 144 kilometers per h, powerful enough to raze entire neighborhoods. If emergency seawalls and levees cannot withstand Hurricane Bettina's wrath, entire communities could be washed away before sunrise. In the city of Adler, a towering tree smashed down onto a bus stop, sheltering a group of residents seeking refuge. Miraculously, there were no casualties, but the scene highlights the ubiquitous risk as 100 miles per hour winds launch deadly debris through the air. Outside Yevpatoria, news helicopters revealed an utterly devastated highway flooded under 3 feet of raging storm surge, littered with the husks of abandoned vehicles after terrified motorists narrowly escaped the waves. But many more residents likely remain trapped by rising floodwaters with no means of escape. Inside the city, emergency crews scramble to evacuate 15 stranded citizens from inundated homes as they race against rapidly rising waters. But countless more families await rescue in quickly worsening conditions. Across battered towns and cities, critical infrastructure lies in ruins, leaving over 40,000 Crimeans suddenly without access to electricity. And with cell towers downed by Bettina's winds, hundreds of thousands have lost all means of communication. They can only sit in darkness and wait for the sun to rise. The flooded streets of Sevastopol now run brown with polluted floodwater, washing untold contaminants through cherished landmarks in the naval port city. Gushing currents submerge the iconic monument to sunken ships as raging winds sheared off rooftops and turned trees into deadly projectiles. Incredibly powerful gusts have already downed over 140 trees, causing widespread damage and blocking vital roadways. Emergency response is already stretched to the breaking point, with flooding rapidly worsening and the strongest bands of Bettina's eye wall yet to strike. Once idyllic resorts now overflow with displaced, terrified families driven from their homes by rising waters and forced to seek shelter wherever they can. Subscribe and stay informed. Subscribe and stay